Remember I was sitting on the White House lawn when President Bush signed it into law and said, "Let the shameful walls of exclusion finally come tumbling down." It was a long time in coming. It took a lot to do. Let's see if I can't. Oops, how do I get the next slide? Yeah, and I did this. This is George Bush said, "With today's signing of the landmark Americans with Disabilities Act, every man, woman, and child with a disability can now pass through once closed doors into a bright new era of equality, independence, and freedom." So it is, and my guess is many of your children may not have been born yet at this time. I certainly didn't know at the time when I was working on this that I would have 2 children that would be able to have the law on their side as they went through school. Let me tell you a little bit about how we're going to page down, I guess, about the agenda tonight. I'm going to talk about Social Security, vocational rehabilitation, what are your options, and then have Q&As. Please ask questions throughout. You can either type it on the message there, or you can just say, unmute me, because some of the questions are long and it's not easy to type. It works better if you ask questions because, trust me, the questions you have are the same questions other people who have. So someone's going to be too shy to ask it and they'll be thankful that you asked for them. So let's see. Now do I, so this is what I'm doing is, the question that we're asking is, is it really true I can go to college for free if I have a disability? And is it true I can get everything paid for, including tuition, room, and books? And then, can I get a cash payment every month between $500 and $800 until I'm employed? The question everybody says, is this really true? Like, it's too good to be true. Well, let me tell you a little bit about myself. Yep, that's me many years ago. I was actually paralyzed from the neck down from a rare disease. I spent 4 years in an electric wheelchair and 8 on crutches learning to walk, although I had to show my ski picture. I also was Commissioner of Disabilities, so I was in the White House during that time. Some of you know the Governor's Council, the DD councils, or the Protection and Advocacy System, and some of those are the things I was responsible for, in addition to having the opportunity to help write the ADA. So that's a little bit about me. Oops. I have 3 children, Tatyana, Hannah, and Ruthie. I want to talk about, if you don't know my children, I want to talk a little bit about them because I'm going to use them as examples during this time. So this is my daughter, Hannah. Some of you know her. She's a Paralympian. All 3 of my children are adopted. Hannah has PFFD. We had to amputate her leg above the knee, and she has no hip socket. That's Hannah. And this is Tatyana. And some of you may know Tatyana. She is adopted as well. She has spina bifida, and she is a wheelchair racer. Now, I'm going to use both Tatyana and Hannah as an example as I talk about some of these programs, but it is clear she gets her muscles from me. There is no doubt. At least I like to, anybody who doesn't know that they're adopted, I try to convince them she does. So those are my kids. So the 2 programs we're going to talk about are supplemental security income. I also call it Social Security because many of you know SSDI. SSDI is if any of us become disabled, if we've worked at least 10 quarters, that's what we get. Supplemental Social Security income. And the next one is vocational rehabilitation, also known as Voc Rehab, DOORS, VR. I think in Texas, it's the Texas Workforce. It's all the same. It's vocational rehabilitation. Here's the thing that you need to remember. SSI is about everything you can't do. Voc Rehab is about everything you can do. And when I say that, SSI, supplemental security income, It was written a long time ago. Now, I'm using the word crippled, lame, and infirm purposely. It was written a long time ago that said, oh my gosh, you have a disability? You will never be able to work. We will have to take care of you. So we're going to have to give money to you or to your guardian so that we can take care of you because you'll never work. The other one, vocational rehabilitation, is everything you can do. Oh my gosh, you have a disability. We have to rehabilitate you so that you become a productive citizen in life. A lot of that happened after the war when the soldiers came home. I put this picture in because you have to wear a different hat when you're talking about these programs. They are diametrically opposed, but in fact, they work together. I actually happen to write some of the regs, so I know them. But again, remember, SSI is about what you can't do. Voc Rehab is about what you can do. So let's first talk about SSI. SSI, you must have a permanent disability. It's income-based, it's means-based. You have to be poor. I like to do it when the kids are 18 because when they're 18, they're an adult. And then we don't go on the parents' income. And they receive about $520 a month to live on and $250 for housing. Now, you can tell it's a poverty program because who can live on that? But that's what it is. Voc Rehab says, so the bottom line is this program is to keep you dependent. You can't have more than $2,000 in assets. There are a lot of exceptions to the rules. But I want to talk about the pure form about how we can get your kids on it. Again, permanent disability. And I tell people in this program, we never lie, ever, ever, ever. We tell the truth, but we answer the questions how they're asked. And I'm going to come back to that. Now, Voc Rehab is different. Remember, I said a different hat now. Oh, you have a permanent disability. It is income-based, but we are going to rehabilitate you. We're going to pay for your tuition, books, room, and board. The bottom line is we want to get you employment. So those are the two programs, I think. So let's talk about these examples. So I use my daughter, Hannah. You have to prove that the disability is permanent, that it won't get better. So in other words, we had to prove Hannah's leg is not going to grow back. It's just never getting better. Or let's take Tatyana. Tatyana has spina bifida. Well, the entire state of Maryland, she's not on this now, but when I applied for it for her, they knew who she was. She was in the newspaper all the time and was winning a lot of things. But by definition, she has spina bifida. That means she qualifies for SSI because it's a permanent disability. It will never get better. They're not asking how you accommodate. Spina bifida is not getting better. So, and remember, I said you never lie in these things, but you have to know how to speak the right language. Because for Hannah, if they were to say to Hannah, do you walk? She'd say, yeah, but she doesn't walk. She doesn't walk based on what the norm is. So they would say, do you walk? She would say, no. Their next question is, well, how do you get around? And she'd say, a prosthetic leg. But if they said, do you walk? Yes, well, then what's your disability? And this is a hard thing. People who are who talk about this say, but my child's doing so great, it has to be permanent. So is SSI on the parent's income? No, if they're claimed as a dependent, no. They are an adult at 18 for SSI. We'll want to get them off your income taxes then, because, and let's see if my next slide shows, you need to speak my language. Let's go back to, so, you know, here it's, see what they're going to get. They're going to get about $700, $800, just shy of $800 a month in cash for the rest of their life until they get a job, which means, like for Hannah, she turned 18 in January while she was in high school. I put her on this. Well, she's now went to college, she got her undergraduate, and she's still in college. She's getting her master's degree. So she will graduate in December with her master's. She's still on SSI. So we're talking 7 years times, just shy of $800. She's getting just shy of $60,000. It's a lot of money. Now you can't keep that money, and I'm going to talk about that in a moment. But excuse me. So that's SSI. It's permanent. You can't do, you can't do, you can't do, you can't do. Voc Rehab, then we say, oh, Tatyana, you have a permanent disability, you have spina bifida. Oh, we have to educate you. Now, excuse me, that could be if Tatyana said, or one of your kids say, I want to be an accountant. Well, the only way you can be an accountant is if you get a bachelor's degree in accounting. So Voc Rehab would say, well, we have to pay for you to go to college. And of course, we got to pay for you to live there. And we've got to pay for your books. And by the way, one of Tatyana's books was like $600. So believe me, you'll love when they pay for your books. So again, these two programs are diametrically opposed. But in fact, they work together. They're just two different laws. Ones I happen to know about because I help with the regs. But my goal is to say, how can we get our kids out of college with no debt? Now, I just want to say, it doesn't mean they have to go to college. Let's say one of your kids wants to be a hairdresser. Well, we could go to Voc Rehab and say, my son or daughter would like to be a hairdresser. They say, well, okay, they pay for them to go to hairdresser school. They buy them the scissors. They graduate, and they're done. The goal is to get a job. Any questions there? I want to pause for a second because it's confusing. And can they unmute themselves?
Yeah, if you have a question, you can unmute yourself.
No questions.
I see one in the chat, Deborah.
Oh, does Voc require you to go to college in the state? Ah, good question. Does Voc Rehab require you to go in the college at the state you're in? Let me show you an example. Okay, here's an example of a university. So, and I'm going to give, the answer is no, they don't. But, they only will pay for the cost for you to go in your in-state college. There are some exceptions to that, but let's give an example. So here's an example of an in-state residence, tuition, room, and board. If you're out of state, it significantly increases the cost. So you see, you've got a differential of about $24,000. Well, I like to go to Voc Rehab then and say, all right, here's the in-state cost, Voc Rehab, of a college where you live. Voc Rehab then would say, we'll pay for your tuition, we'll pay for your room and board, we'll pay for your books, some miscellaneous. So the difference you pay, it's cheap. These are some examples, but give or take. In other words, if you're going to the in-state school, they'll pay a lot of money for you to stay in state. Somebody's saying they'll pay for a short-term, not a long-term college plan. She wants to be a teacher. Nah, they want to pay for teacher's aid. They can't say that, and I'm going to come back and answer that. Let me show you this. So this is in-state. Now, again, if you're out of state, here's a difference that you'd pay. So so this is an out-of-state cost, the $36,000. Voc Rehab would pick up what your in-state costs are. So your differential is $25,000. But remember, I said we want to get you on SSI, so that's about $9,000 that you'll get, $10,000. So basically, you're paying, if you go out of state, you're going to pay, well, $9,000. You'll have about $7,000 a semester that you'll have to pay. Clearly, if you go to, I put a community college rate in there. If you go to a community college, it's cheap. Now, somebody asked on the chat, can Voc Rehab say they will only pay to be a teacher's aide rather than a teacher? So Voc Rehab has the right to give you career assessments, IQ tests, psychological tests. I don't like any of that for the kids that I work with, because if your student is in high school and they're doing well, they get good grades, and we show that they've been accepted to a college, then what I say to Voc Rehab is, you know, this is somebody who is smart enough to go to college, and we want to put them into their highest income tax bracket possible, not their lower. Now, they won't, if you say, well, I want to be a lawyer or a doctor, they're not going to pay for that. They're going to pay for you to get a bachelor's degree. But if your child is in high school and is doesn't graduate with a high school diploma, and doesn't have, I don't care about the SAT scores. They have to show that they have the ability to go to college. But if somebody is saying that to you, it's not true. They can't say we're going to put you in your lowest income tax bracket possible. Does that make sense? Other questions? This is very important to understand. And it's hard to understand because you hear different things. They only want to pay, just finish first year college with a 3.78 GPA. Trust me, we need to talk. They can't say we're going to make you a teacher's aide. They can't, I mean, they can't do it. The person can say it. Now, and you know, it depends on who you get on the phone. So SSI, we tend to get the people who are, they've got a computer screen in front of them and they're asking questions to fill in the blanks. Voc Rehab can be more interactive on it, but if they're saying that your child can only be a teacher's aide, it's just wrong. I mean, they can't say that. If a child stops being your dependent at 18, does that affect them staying in your family's health insurance? No, you can stay in your health insurance until you're 26. Actually, technically, they have a disability and they're dependent on you longer. But no, you can stand there. What'll happen is when you get SSI, they will approve you for medical insurance, Medicaid. They also approve you for food stamps. I tell the kids, don't get food stamps because you're going to be eating at college and you have enough. But you can definitely, I keep my kids on my insurance. Hannah's still on it. She's not 26 yet, but not a problem. More questions, yeah. Does the Voc Rehab payment for college affect SSI? Not at all. The programs work independently of each other in a vacuum. You get SSI, you get Voc Rehab. But it says, what order do you go to? Here's what I like to do. I want people to apply for SSI first, because if you're approved for SSI, you automatically are approved for Voc Rehab. But the converse is not true. If you're approved for Voc Rehab, you're not automatically approved for SSI. SSI is the golden ticket. It's the golden ticket. You get SSI, you've got everything you need. It is that powerful. So what I do is when the kids turn 18, and it used to be 18 in one day. Now it's the next month. Many of the states now say it's the next month. So I like to get them on it as soon as they turn 18. Now, in the past, it would take maybe 6 months to get approved. I'm telling you now with COVID, I'm getting these kids approved in 2 weeks. It's unbelievable. Well, the interview back in 2 weeks. It's unbelievable. So we want that. So the first thing, no, and someone said, do you apply for SSI, then Medicaid, then Voc Rehab? No, it's SSI and Voc Rehab. That's the order you should apply for. Medicaid comes as a part of SSI. So SSI is the golden ticket. Now, sometimes some of the parents, the schools will say, oh, go to Voc Rehab, and they'll say, do you want hand controls? Sometimes it's a trick, not meaningful, but I'm not interested in hand controls for $1,000. I'm interested in the college amount of money. I'm interested in them paying $25,000 a year times 5 years, $125,000. That's what we want to go for. Are there any downsides to applying for SSI? No, there's no downsides. You can, it doesn't affect you. You can apply for SSI. This program is because they haven't paid into it. I've paid into it, but I would get SSDI, so supplemental security disability income, because I've worked at least 10 quarters in my life. So we've paid into it. This is because the kids haven't worked and paid into it. Now there's something about working that I want to talk to. So when you're on Social Security, you can't work because they're going to be paying you just shy of $800 a month. And you could work. I mean, we all want our kids to have work experience, but if they work, they will deduct that amount that you earn from your Social Security check. So what I like to tell the kids is, look, you're going to college and you're getting paid to study hard. If you're playing sports, you're getting paid to play sports and go to college. Your job is to go to school and get good grades, because we want to get you out without debt. And I think with this program, we can get them without debt. I mean, our kids will have a lot of expenses in life. And this is something really, other than handicap parking around the holiday time at the malls, this is a good program. It's an advantage that they can have. Yes, so internships. So how you do the internships is that some of the internships are paid, some are not paid. If it's a paid internship, you don't have to go to them and say, I can't get paid because I'm on SSI and this is, you just basically say, I get a scholarship and I'm not allowed to accept money during my college years. You know, we don't need to give the details to an employer. You can say, if you want to pay for my parking or buy me lunch, that's a great thing, but I can't earn money. Now, some of you will say, but that's an important part for our kids, but they'll earn us a little bit of money for a short time, and we want them to have this money. Now, they can't save it. You cannot save the money. So you can't say, so, I mean, Hannah, she's got 7 years of getting this. You can't save it. You can't have more than 2,000 in assets. If you have more than 2,000 in assets, they'll take the money from you. So, so I charge my kids $250 a month rent, make sure they pay. I charge them as much as I can. The kids don't need $700 a month, $800 a month at college. Everything's paid for. So I charge them as much as I can. Once I charge my kids money, it becomes my money. It's my money. And it is illegal for Hannah to say, oh, my mom's just saving that money for me when I graduate. That's illegal. I can't save the money. But if I just so happen to have $50,000 of money and I want to help her buy a car or put a down payment for a house, I can help her with my money. So you can't have more than that. Somebody else asked a question. Oh, yes. So how you rent them a room. So if I was going to Clayton's house and I said, hey, I'm going to be in California, can I rent a room? He said, sure, it's going to be $250 a month. If I pay him $250 a month and I stay no days, 1 day, or every day, it's my room. It's my room. So when they're going to college, it's really not their room. It's a dorm they're living in. Their permanent room is at your house or their grandparents' house or something. So they pay that rent. Again, if I go to Clayton's house, that's my room. And if I'm paying it, and he says, this is the best deal ever. She pays me $250 a month and she showed up twice this year. It's still my room. In terms of scholarships, yeah, you can't. Okay, so that's SSI. For Voc Rehab, they are a second payee. So they will go first to everything else before they pay. So let's see if my next slide has this. Oh yeah, I was just saying, for 5 years, you get about 47,000 in cash and 150,000 for Voc Rehab. This is a great deal. I mean, it really is a great program to get your kids out without things. Let's see, somebody asked for my name. There's my information. There are second payees. So what happens is Voc Rehab will first say, did you get a Pell Grant? You must apply for FAFSA every year. Even if you know you won't get a Pell Grant, that your income's too high, you have to have it. So always apply for FAFSA and make sure you look at the deadlines that are there. Different states have different deadlines, or different colleges. So look at that very carefully. So Voc Rehab will first go to the Pell Grant. They cannot touch a merit grant. If it's from merit, they can't touch it. The athletic scholarships, I work with a number of the universities, and we write it differently. I have them rewrite the scholarship letter to you saying this is to help defray out-of-state costs. And so to stay out-of-state costs, they can't touch that. So I help you. You've heard about these programs. If you go to a law firm, they'll charge you $15,000. And they'll only help you with Social Security. They won't help you with Voc Rehab. It's a ripoff. I'm just telling you, it's not worth it. Number one, you can do this program yourself. You don't need me. I charge $2,500. I charge $500 up front, and I charge the next $2,000 after you get your first Social Security check. I do no contracts. It's on the honor system. I've only had one person in all the years not pay, and I think it's because of a nasty divorce. But it charges nothing till you get your Social Security check. If you do it yourself and you get denied, I'm not interested in working with you. I've made a couple exceptions to that. But what happens is if you're denied, then you go to appeal it, and the next person says, the first person denied them. They probably know what they're doing. I'm overworked, so I'm going to deny them again. So again, you can do it yourself, but you have to speak the languages. And it is very, very tricky. One small mistake can cost you the golden ticket. So you have to be very cautious on this. Hold on, let's see. Leftover Pell Grant money. What do we do with it so SSI doesn't count? SSI won't count it. Oh, well, you can't, the Pell Grant doesn't come to you directly. It goes to the school. So if you don't use it all, it just stays there. SSI won't count that. If you get scholarships, then you need to talk to me about that. So, so I can give you more information. Let's see. Yeah, what about ABLE accounts? So there are exceptions to the special needs trust and ABLE accounts. If you don't have an ABLE account, I tell you don't start it till after we get, I like to get SSI in its purest form. If you have an ABLE account, they can't touch it, but there's a right way to talk about it with them. So let's see. Yeah, now about the person who asked about they could only be a teacher's aide. There are some states, Maryland is one of them where I'm from, that says we will only pay the equivalent of a community college for the first 2 years. And it's terrible. So both my girls went to University of Illinois. Well, the equivalent of a community college is terrible. So I work with these universities. It took me 2 years to work with the state of Illinois. So we got them to agree to take the students through their Voc Rehab system there, because we want them paid for a 4-year college. I work with some of the other colleges, Arizona and stuff, to say, here's how we have to figure it out for the students. So if your kids are going to one of the colleges where there's sports, I've probably worked with them, and I'd work with you about here's how we would do that. Hold on. So how do you manage anything? If you have scholarships, I want to make sure I've got that. Spin your pen at 18. No, Voc Rehab, not the college you stay in. Are there certain assets that SSI will count? Yeah. So they can have your kid can have a car, but here's the thing: when I say to your student, to the kids, do you have a car? Oh yeah, I have a car. Well, is it in your name or is it in your parents' name? Well, it's my parents' name. They let me use it. Well, then it's not your car. It's your parents' car. I mean, they'll ask you questions. Do you have burial plots? And do you have, they ask a lot of questions. But again, if I work with you, I say, let's go to your bank account right now. We need to, they have to have a checking account. They shouldn't have a savings account because remember, Social Security is a poverty program. So a checking account, you need to get some checks, a little small amount of checks. Although one parent said their bank said, well, they're not safe anymore, don't get them. I said, oh, well, Social Security is under the old school of thinking, so get some checks. Will they count mobility aid assets? No, my wheelchair, nope, not gonna count your wheelchair. You know, the kids, if your kid has a problem writing, you know, I often try to get them a brand new computer. You know, if they're asked, you have a computer and they say, yes, no, it's your parents' computer, not yours. Let's get you a new computer. Let's get you, you know, the programs that do voice activation. We could also, you know, get them technology assessments to see what might be helpful. The 529 plans. Well, a 529 plan is, like we don't need it. I mean, if we're gonna get everything paid for, we don't need it. So I could get Bill Gates' child on Social Security. I mean, they'll ask you if you have a trust, but what they mean is, do you have a trust fund that gives you money? Like, you know, Prince Harry's got a trust fund, he gets to use all the money. If it's a trust fund that you have no control over, you don't have it. It'd be like one of you saying to me, hey, Debbie, you know, I'm going to give you $10 million when I die. I've got it in my will. I'm going to give it to you. Really? $10 million when you die? I can tell everybody I'm going to get $10 million from them. But I don't really have $10 million from you. I promise I have you saying something. So unless it is something that you have for sure, it's a trust fund that you're getting money from monthly, or you can go to the trust and say, I want to buy a car, can the trust pay for it? But if you don't have control, it's not yours. 529, you know, and some of the parents I talk to, they go, well, I have other kids, can I give it to them? I go, give it to them. Because I think on this program, we can really work well. It's, how long do we need to start? I like to start with the parents 6 months ahead of time at a minimum, because I need certain things done. And I tell you exactly the doctor's letters we want. I tell you how we want them written up, what we want, because what I want to do is think for the person who calls. So I want it all done ahead of time, so they don't have to think. We're going to think for them, and we're going to think how to answer. If I work with you, I'm on the phone. Before COVID, I was working all over the country. We don't need to be on the phone. I don't like to go in person to anybody. Let me get back to so we remember these. So we do it all by phone. I talk to your child beforehand to say, I'm going to get on the phone with you. And by the way, for Social Security, if you tell them I'm a professional working with you, they will deduct $15,000 out of your child's check. You don't want that. So I am Aunt Debbie to a lot of kids, or family friend. And now I will tell them my background. If we have any problems, I do say, I'm a former commissioner of disabilities, and trust me, they all know what that is. It is I reported to a cabinet level person. I reported to Secretary Sullivan at HHS. It's a good position. So if there's a problem, I'll use my title. But otherwise, I get on the phone and I say, here's how we're going to answer SSI. Let's practice it so that you know exactly what to say. Remember, we're not lying about anything. We're going to answer the question. So back to Hannah. Hannah, can you walk? The answer is no. Oh, how do you get around a prosthetic leg? Folk rehab's different. Hannah, and again, they won't worry about the disability because you've already been approved by Social Security. But remember, that Social Security is really, really important. If one little mistake is made, it can cost you the approval for it. Are there certain disability classes that are easier to qualify? Yeah. Somebody who is, the disability has to be such that it interferes with your function in life. Now, again, let's use both my daughters. Let's use Tatyana. Well, Tatyana is not much that interferes in anything in her life. And Tatyana travels all over the world and has no problems. But by fact that she has spina bifida in a wheelchair, she's considered crippled, lame, and infirm by Social Security standards. So if, and so I always like saying, now Hannah would just die. Hannah doesn't want to go in a wheelchair. She wants to use a prosthetic leg. But I would ask the amputees, I say, can you walk? Hannah would say, yes. Do you need a wheelchair for distance? I'm never going in a wheelchair. I said, okay. But if you went to Disney World, or I usually say to the boys, okay, I'm a girl, I'm gonna go to the mall, I wanna go to all the sales, I'm gonna go really fast, could you keep up with me? Well, I would try my best. See, we're not asking them to push, we're asking what the norm is. So I like when we say, must use a wheelchair for distance. That's what we said for Hannah. It's not a lie. For distance, she would use a wheelchair. She doesn't go whatever distance we described. But for Social Security, we want to show that it interferes with everyday functioning, not whether you can accommodate. So for all of us parents, we're so proud of our kids. We're so proud of them that they can do anything. But by definition, it interferes with their functioning. Is it or not? Let's see. Is it easier to qualify? Hold on. I gotta get these. Yeah. So I would want to. So I would talk with you and say, yeah, here's. And I'll tell you. Somebody who came to me and said their child has spina bifida and they got denied. They got denied because they didn't answer the questions right. If you have spina bifida, if you're a wheelchair user, you shouldn't get denied. I mean, that's just is an easy one. Well, easy sort of. But you can't answer. I mean, these questions are very critical. You do not have to be enrolled in college full-time to qualify. You can go part-time and still qualify. Yes, we have to show. So I always tell the kids take 12 credits. Don't take more than that because 12 credits is a full-time for college. We could work with Voc Rehab. We might have to say they're unable to go full-time because of X. So there's lots of things that we can do, variations on the theme, but it's, again, you have to be, again, you've got to have those two different hats on. Who am I talking to? As I said, everything I can't do. So, I'll talk to somebody with CP. Can you cook? Yeah, I cook all the time. Yeah, what happens when you put a knife in your hand? Can you really do this? We're not talking about how you accommodate it in life. Because all of our kids, especially if they're going through the programs like Angel City Sports, our kids are great. They know how to survive life. But we have to have that hat on for SSI, what I can't do. I saw Ezra jumping up on a stadium, the first stands, jumping. It was unbelievable. It was unbelievable. The point is, Ezra can't walk. He cannot walk. And he will never get better, because getting better is on the disability, not on what we accommodate for. Let's see, more message. Do you stop SSI after college? Yeah. Now, that's a really good question. So SSI is why you're not earning money. When you earn money, you have to let them know. So when you start your job, you then let SSI know. It could take them 6 months to catch up to you. The system's slow. That 6 months that you're getting SSI checks, it is not yours. So some of those kids that called me back and said, yeah, but I spent that money. It wasn't your money to spend. The rule is you're on SSI as long as you're not earning. Once you earn, it's not your money. And they will catch up with you. If your kid has worked, they need to, I mean, we would talk, but I might say stop now. And we can do it if they've had some summer jobs, but I'll tell you how that's done. Is college limited to 4 years? No. I think most of our kids go 5 years to school. You don't take more than 12 credits. It's a 5-year program. Let's see, how do I roll down for more messages? My daughter works for the summer as a attendant at a pool. Well, what year is she in high school or college? Megan, my daughter works for the summer as a slide attendant at a pool. What? So she just graduated. Is she 18? Quit. She needs to quit the job. Yeah, she needs to quit the job. It's a matter, does she earn $800 a month at the pool? And I hate saying this because I worked starting when I was maybe 13 when you're allowed to, but from 16 on, it's a good skill for our kids to have, but we want them to have life experiences and working. But then again, this could be $250,000. It's a lot of money. It's a lot of money. And now I would tell you how she'd have to quit. Can you qualify for voc rehab without SSI? Yes, you can. They will, some of you will have voc rehab in your school systems that will have said, hey, we can help them learn to drive a car and pay for, adaptive hand controls. So they've qualified you in high school, but they haven't qualified you to go on for college or a job. And I keep saying college, but it could be a job that doesn't require a college degree. By the way, when you talk to voc rehab, they're going to ask you, what do you want to do? You'll study. If you say, I'm going to study philosophy, they're going to tell you, we're not paying for you to go to school. I want to be an accountant. I want to be a teacher. I want to be a kinesiologist, because it all leads to a job. It all leads to a job. Somebody said, my son's been denied 3 times from SSI. What's a disability? Type that while I'm talking. It has to be very, very specific. And that's where, when I work with your kids, we say, what do you want to do? You can change your mind. You can go in and say, I want to be an accountant. I mean, really, what 17, 18-year-old knows what they want to do for the rest of their life? But when we talk to voc rehab, we know for sure, this is what I'm going to do. Oh, I finished my first semester, second semester. I don't want to be an accountant. I want to be an elementary school teacher. That's okay. How far in advance do we need to start working to get voc rehab to pay for tuition? Our 18-year-old daughter is a senior this year. Dual credit. No, they won't pay for dual credit classes. So you need to get voc rehab. What state are you from, Christy? And Megan, let me know what your son has, what disability. From Texas. Yeah. Oh, Texas is moving pretty fast. I'm having some good success with Texas, but they won't let, so if you're taking what pay for, I want to say dual credits. It's actually taking dual credit classes. She's senior. No, she's got to have a high school degree and then they can pay for it. But if you're at a community college, oftentimes community college, once you have SSI, you can go to the finance office and say, oh, I'm on SSI. Our community college here, you only pay the fees. You don't pay the full tuition if you're on SSI. So you don't have to go for voc rehab. So that might be a good thing for you to try. Yeah. See, the person that wrote to me and said, my son has been denied 3 times and he's paralyzed on the right side. You're denied when things aren't answered right. And because our kids would qualify for this, but it has to be answered right. And so people who are like Hemi's, paralyzed on the right side, can you carry things? Can you, well, you can't carry things like I carry things with 2 hands. Can you lift and things on the shelf? Can you get up on a ladder? We're not asking how you've accommodated it. It's what does a disability say you can't do? Remember, you have to have your hat on, the right hat. Oh, I'm talking SSI. This is everything I can't do because of my disability, not because I can accommodate. Not because Ezra's jumping up on the stadium walls. Okay, we saw you do that. You can't walk, Ezra. You can't walk. You can't do certain things. You can't go up and down stairs if you don't have 2 legs. It's about what you can't do, not what you've accommodated for. So it's, if they've been now 3 times, this is really bad because usually at that point you're denied. That's what, we don't want denial to happen at all. We want to get it on the first round. I can tell you I've never had anybody denied. But I know how things have to be answered. Again, not lying, how they're answered. Hannah will never walk. Her leg's never growing back. And we have to show it's a permanent condition, it won't get better. We're in Oregon. Well, in Oregon, so when they say community college, the state has the ability to say, we are, statistically, people with disabilities don't graduate from a 4-year school. Statistically speaking, they're putting in everybody with a disability, everybody. Like my neighbor whose daughter's in a persistent vegetative state, putting her in, and they're putting in both of my daughters. So some of the states have said we're only going to pay the equivalent of what a community college rate is. After that, then we will pay for the 4-year college. So when I went back, let's see if I can get that, my examples of the college. Oh, there it is. So, so they may, now, just so you know, so we could say to Oregon, great, you're only going to pay for the community college rate, the $6,000, great. My child is going to Florida and we're going to take the $6,000 and go there. They will say, no, you can't. That's somebody who doesn't know the rules. Trust me, I wrote the regs, I know the rules. We can apply it to another state. They'll just say we can't pay for any differential. So, but thank you, we'll take that $6,000 and apply it to a 4-year university or even a 4-year university in a state. But that's where we have to talk. We have to have a plan of how we talk to them. But really, folk rehab, their whole job is to push our kids into the highest income tax bracket possible. Hi, you want to be a teacher? I'm only going to make you a teacher's aide and you get a 3.8. I don't think so. And that's where I would use my background. You know, sometimes we'll get a voc rehab counselor to talk that way, and I'll just say, oh, no, we're going to do that. And they go, you don't know. And I go, yeah, well, I was commissioner. and I'll pull rank. So anyway, how about a gap year? No, gap year's fine. If you want to take a year off, I still want to get them on SSI. If the gap year is to go exploring things, let's get them on SSI if we can. If not, we'll apply when they come back from whatever they're doing for the gap year. And the same thing for college. So, I mean, it's an overwhelming, it's tough. I think some of the parents I work with call me a year out to say, what do I need to prepare for? And I'll tell you, here's exactly what you can do, need to do. We have to have a medical within 6 months from when we apply, but I like to prepare the doctors for what we're going to do. The thing is, we have to be careful because some of you have doctors that have known your kids since they were born. Oh my gosh, we're so proud of Susie. She's doing so well. And the things that she's done, she continues to improve and amaze me all the time. You'll get denied. If they said that about Hannah, it's true. She continues to amaze us and she improves all the time. Her legs not growing back. So I like talking, usually, sorry dads, usually the moms are the ones that have got the relationship with a pediatrician or PCP. I want the letter written a certain way. And again, you can do this yourself. If you do it wrong, you will be denied, and then it's going to cost a lot. They're not. Again, I take a couple of those, but I like to start with our kids. We've got a particular group of kids that I like working with. They're smart. They are accomplished in what they do. Other questions? Other questions? Or do you want to unmute it if somebody has a longer question? No. I'm happy to, I think make sure I got everybody's answer. How do you feel about gap years? Does voc rehab staff usually apply to grad school? No. Well, I can tell you, does it apply to grad school? No, because remember, they want to get you a job. So I want to be a teacher. They're not going to say, we're going to pay for you to go to graduate school. Technically, there's a way around that, but it's, you have to assume it's for your bachelor's degree. But again, if we get our kids out of school without debt, this is a big deal. So anyway, I'm happy to talk to any one of you. I know some of you need to go, but if you want to stand longer, I can talk now by voice. I'm happy to do that. Or you can call me, later and we can talk. So, and again, happy ADA anniversary. Oh, I had one other thing to tell you. Please, this is a little plug. My daughter Tatyana just made a movie. It's the history of the Paralympics. She's been working on it 2 years as a producer. She was working with Prince Harry. He's not doing it, but it will come out, and Netflix purchased it, and it goes out to 190 countries on August 22nd. So Rising Phoenix. And if you are on online, if you follow her on social media, you'll see it. Here, I'll make sure you have her name spelled right. But if you follow her on social media, she'll be able to, she'll announce it. So to me, yeah, yeah. So I've been doing this. Somebody asked me how long I've been doing this. So it came in later. So I was Commissioner of Disabilities for the United States and helped write some of these regs. ADA, I'm obviously very proud of. Actually, the law, I filed a lawsuit with the school denied my daughter the right to participate in high school sports. She had just come back from the Paralympics with a silver and bronze medal, started school, and after they wouldn't do it, I filed a suit. We won in our county. We wrote a law, it became law in the state of Maryland, and now, and then Tatyana said, let's make it federal. So I got both my girls to talk to President Obama. So your kids are probably the recipients of this. It's the Sports and Fitness Equity Act, aka Tatyana's law, which says if you go to a public school, they have to provide sports opportunities for you. So, yeah, someone said, how well have I done? I've never had anybody that I've helped not get it, ever. And I'm shy of getting $19 million to date for people. So, yeah. Anything. Yeah, and I'll be there on educational night. Yeah, 19 million and counting. Yeah. So anyway, so that's it. So again, if you want to unmute and ask questions, I'll stay on. If not, call me. I'm happy to do it, and I want our kids to get out of school without debt. Thanks, everybody. Oh, thank you. Thanks. Ah.
Debbie,
Hey,
thank
Deborah.
you so much. Incredible stuff.
It's
So grateful.
incredible. Yeah, I hope all of our kids can use it. So
I echo that as well. Thank you so much, Debbie. Really, really appreciate all the information.
Echoing as well. Thank you so much.
a little plug for you there, Ezra.
I know, I appreciate it.
I have a
Maybe you'll come wall jumping with me one time.
Oh, yeah.
I have a question.
Sure.
Do scholarships affect SSI at all?
No, they don't.
No? Okay.
No, they don't. Well, remember, you can't, the scholarship that would go directly to the school, if you got a check for $1,000 somebody gave you, that's not going to hurt it. Remember, you can't have more than 2,000 in assets. Now, I will tell you this, one of the families I had talked to, I said, you cannot have over $2,000. Well, when their son went to college, he wanted to buy whatever he wanted. So they put some more money in his account, and literally it went over like $50 or something. And he got denied. You cannot have more than $2,000. You can't. So, and I can talk to you about how we do that, but it can't have it. So, but is that what you meant about the scholarship?
Yeah.
Yeah, because some of the colleges are giving away $25,000 scholarship. It's more important that we work with Voc Rehab to say that scholarship should be to defray out-of-state expenses or things. I'd have to look at what you got it for, but I help look at that and say, oh, okay, here's how we're going to present it to Voc Rehab, or I call the school up and say, I'd like you to rewrite the scholarship letter, and I can usually do that. So,
Okay. Thank you.
who else had one? Amy, did you have one? Oh, so you're muted.
There
Yeah.
you go. Hi. You said that you can't save the money.
Yeah, you can't, because remember, so your child who's on SSI, it's a poverty program. So you can't have more than 2,000 in assets. So
I guess my question is, how do you get rid of it fast enough?
Well, I charge my daughter as much as I can for anything. Remember, when I charge her that, it becomes my money. If I have a bank account that happens to have $50,000 in it, that I want to help, pay for a new condo fee or something like that, it's my money. If Hannah were to say my mother's saving my money, that is illegal. But
so that can go. Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
I can charge for rent. I can charge for clothes. I can charge for anything I want. Management fee.
That moves into the expenses part, like above and beyond what the housing part is.
Right.
Like the food, the clothing, or those types of things.
Whatever there's extra in their account. We just don't want them to have extra in their account. They cannot, so hence you can't have a savings account. I mean, you can. It's a little confusing. That's why I tell everybody, close your savings account, because this is not it's a poverty program. Now, some of the accounts come with a checking and savings. Oh, and the other thing, you can't be on the account because then we'll go to your money. So if you said, yeah, but I want that, you know what, it's, you can't be on it. Now, some places will let you, your child get off at 17, others you have to be 18, but we can do it. So what I'll do is like, so I have on my calendar, some kids are turning 18 in August. So now that means September 1st, I have them on my calendar because on September 1st, we're going to call SSI. But when they turn 18 in August, like this one I'm thinking of, can't get the mom off. I want mom off the account right away. And I want to make sure there's nothing in that checking account that's going to be over the limit. But I would work with you on that to say, let's do that. Do you have to provide receipts? So for Tatyana, the first year, I thought I'm never going to get her to write me a check for $250 for rent every month and send it to me. So I had her write checks and date them January, February, March, doing that. And then I learned through Hannah, whatever, we just need the money out of there. I can tell you this. So Hannah has been on SSI for like 7 years, 8 years. They have never, ever called to ask for anything, except 3 weeks ago. And they called, I think, because I asked the woman, I said, why now? She goes, well, we're working from home. We have to show we're doing work. And all she said is, are you ready for this? Are you still disabled? Has your disability changed? Yeah, my leg's growing back again. And, you know, so no, you don't have to have receipts. I tell the parents the first year, make sure you get that rent check. And then I'll tell you about how we're going to do the rent, how we write a rental letter to make it work, and these things. So, but it's.
I'll ask. Oh,
Yeah, that's okay. So, and your child's how old?
mine
Yeah.
is 17 and a half.
So now's the time to start doing it.
I'll talk to you this week.
Yeah, because it's, again, remember, as parents, we've worked so hard to have our kids accommodate in life and succeed in spite of their disability. And now what we want them to do is to go to the best college they can or best training program they can and get out without debt, because they will start life off so much better. Oh, my youngest does not have a disability, and I'm like, I wish I could come up with something. I'm paying full fees for college. But it's a good program. And if I were back in the government running SSI, I would change some of this, because it should be different, but it is what it is now. So, and to say it, and Tatyana, those of you who know my daughter Tatyana, she is far paid back into the system what they paid for her. She's in excess paid back. So it was worth the investment to her.
My husband asked but I don't know that it's going to make a big difference, if the rent that we charge and the other things that we charge, if that gets messy or affects like our own taxes. But
oh, that I'm not a tax accountant.
Okay.
Can't help you with that. But I will just tell you, I just took the money from my daughters, and so that would be an accountant question. But it's $250 a month they pay you, and so. Oh, what did I mean by Tatyana paid it back? Tatyana paid back in taxes. Tatyana is not on this program anymore. She's a professional athlete, sponsored by many, many places, and like the movies. So what she pays in income taxes has exceeded what they've invested in her. So of course, Voc Rehab is very proud. They want to take all the credit for rehabilitating Tatyana. So, and you just end SSI. It's, yeah. Nothing else? Okay. Well, thanks everybody. It's always fun. I love Angel City sports.
Debbie, thank you so much. You were amazing. And I'll put Deborah's contact information in the chat once more. And if you can't find it or lose it, feel free to contact Angel City and we'll set you up.
This is great.
Thanks,
Thanks.
everybody.
Definitely.
Thanks. Bye.
Thanks very much. Really appreciate it.
Thanks, Tom.
Yep.